Holy smokes, Blake. Welcome. It is, here's the thing. Our good friends in the United States of America, they don't do what we do, like Boxing Day. It's an English tradition where you put up the boxes, you put all the things. And this is traditionally the day where you go visit your family and more, secondary family, close family, but, let's go see the grandparents. Let's go visit Uncle Ted, if you happen to have one, and you go out and visit, and you could bring a present over for them. And this was the visiting day after spending Christmas Day with the immediate family.
Yeah.
So anyway, Boxing Day, and I guess people could box stuff up and return it to the stores if it was something they didn't want for Christmas, as it turned out. I'm not too sure of the entire etymology, I guess, of Boxing Day,
Well,
but
for
it's
me, Boxing Day was all about lining up at the record store
yeah,
because the Americans had Black Friday, Canada
yeah,
didn't. But our Black Friday equivalent was Boxing Day, is when you would stand in line starting at like 4:30 in the morning at the handful of record stores. It was the
yeah,
record stores that opened the door, and you would wait, and there would be
yeah.
huge lineups for records and stereo equipment, and A&B Sound, Kelly's were the two big ones in Victoria. Yeah, it's fond memories for me as a kid because it was fun. It was kind of doing
Yeah.
that. Do you remember Kelly's? Used to go in there. They have the
You know
hourly.
what?
Every hour there
Yeah.
was a certain record that would go on sale for like $1.50 or something like that, and it would just the guy would walk out with a stack and
Kelly's,
just get
I mean,
mobbed.
Kelly's is going way back. I had Kelly's, I still got in my record collection A&B Sound inner sleeves, proprietary,
Yeah,
and Kelly's records, inner sleeves with a little red circle, and Kelly's in white with this flowing script for it. So they had there. So welcome from Nashville. Warm day here in the middle of Tennessee for December. It's nice. We're envious up here in Canada. Boy, I'm envious of America. I think Blake, you saw that one out on the X platform. But I was astounded by, and I shouldn't be, but I was pleasantly astounded
yeah,
by all the pro-Christian messages. The Christ the Savior is born, and we owe the Lord everything, and praise God for sending your son,
yeah.
this precious gift, the gift to humanity. Greater love has no man than this, for God so loved the world, all this kind of thing. And so, I posted on one of them, I think it was Pete Hesketh. I said, you have no idea what it's like being a Christian in Canada, where you can't even utter, our politicians would never, there's not a single politician that I can think of that would post such a Christ affirming message. And, because that's part and parcel of the American ethos, and why, again, I would welcome any effort on America to a 51st status at
Yeah.
some point in time. Like everything out, yeah, everything out from our end of things. This, yeah, Christ is king. I mean, it's so true, but it's become a political football a bit. Novice Nick, Christ is king. He's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He's the Lord of hosts. I use language like that because Christ is King is a little bit of us doing this to the pagans, to the infidels, to the Somalis. Boy, there's Somali problems in the U.S. right now, too. All the fraud being uncovered. I got a whole bunch of stuff. And keep in mind, it wasn't that long ago YouTube were kicking people off for any intimation. It was one of the last idols to fall in the bastion of, never say, never talk, never discuss on this platform about certain topics. COVID went the way of the dodo. They released the strictures on that. Go ahead, talk about it. We won't destroy your account anymore. And then the final one was the election. You're allowed to question the election. This was the final one. We've got just a few days left under more orthodox means of punitive retribution, justice seeking. On the J6 panel, Liz
Yeah.
Cheney and her cohorts. Time is running out on that. I think there's 12 days more for Pam Bondi, who knows? I don't know what's going on with Bondi, whether she's a sleeper whether she's working for the other side, and her message is simply to say all the right things, but delay, delay, delay until nothing can be done. I don't know. Really interesting as well regarding the Supreme Court decision on National Guard. Trump is no longer allowed to bring the National Guard into Chicago. And in fact, the Supreme Court basically pointed Trump towards the Insurrection Act and said basically, first, you need to bring in the Marine Corps or the 101st Airborne Division, 104, something
Holy,
like this, or bring in the U.S. Navy. But the National Guard, no. Once those guys come in and fail, once the Marines fail, then you can bring in the National Guard. So this gives even more power to Trump, less control for the states over the American military. So look for that to be pulled. Trump's obviously going to do it. He has no fear that way. He spent Christmas blowing the hell out of Islamic terrorists in Nigeria that are basically genociding on what could potentially be a Rwandan scale massacre of Christians when the bloodletting finally ceases.
yeah,
Conspiracy has no statute of limitations. That's right, Nick. So that's what I mean. Once the standard charges are running out in 12 days, but there is a grand conspiracy being bunted around. Brennan's not happy. He's got to, because of the Mar-a-Lago raid, and they got the same judge. I forget the judge's name, but the judge that basically said, "You guys are out of whack. You're out to lunch trying to nail Trump on this. You're
hmm
out of your league, out of your depth. You can't do it." And that same judge is the one that's going to be overseeing the grand jury situation of that presumably grand conspiracy consideration. Grand conspiracy is fascinating, all happening because of that Mar-a-Lago raid. They were trying to go in there to try and get documents related to the Russia Gate problem that they created. The Dems created it, and then they have trouble.
yeah,
Another big story: Trump releasing, and I'm just going to scatterburst the big picture, and then we'll dig in and get your thoughts, Blake. The Trump saying uh, on New Year, on Christmas, right as this is all happening, he's pointing out, he's posting post after post after post on the 20 election. I got a raft of little clips for you. This is the biggest lie that's gone down. January 6th, of course, related to it all. Once we learn that the 2020 election, we know already, but once we can wake up the normies and the leftists that and bring out dark to light, it's the jig is going to be up for them all. The jig is going to be up for them all. So, anything on your mind? What do you want to talk about? And then, if we need a little more structure here, I'll just start bringing in these election
yeah.
clips that I've got.
Well, I think to go back to the beginning,
Yeah,
but I'm going to say all of the above because it's all it was like a landslide of information that we know has been ongoing, but Trump really opened the door on Christmas Day, and he got a lot of Dems, a lot of far left lunatics across the world were having their TDS presence having open, so it was brilliant. But what I want to get back to the original what you were saying, the
yeah,
Christmas messaging. And for me, I thought it was really strange to see what I would call your globalist WF crowd leaders that have been causing the problem all simultaneously giving a very similar message. And it was around Christianity, and it was around the birth of Christ. Even Carney, or he talked about Jesus, he talked the birth of Jesus in his speech, but so did Starmer. And you could see what was going on, and it was orchestrated. There was no, it was fake, and you
yeah,
knew they were doing it, and it's simply because there was the real ones. You could tell who was real, and you can tell it was basically, oh well, we can't keep killing all these Christians because there's just too many of them, the Roman Empire, right? So I guess if we can't beat them, let's fake that we'll join them. and take them over. And that's just, I was that thought in my mind. It's like, here's the WF, they're on the ropes. The globalists are getting the crap kicked out of them right now. And here's their play. Let's infiltrate and pretend, and let's try to get them to calm down and be on our side, because they can see with their own eyes the mass immigration from, literally a culture that has no values, that have
Yeah.
similar sense of being, that can coexist. Um, diametrically opposed to our classical Western liberal values of the democracy. And here they are. If you go through one by one, we're giving a similar Christmas message. And most of them we know in the past didn't even hardly mention. It was like, yeah, Santa, they might say something. Oh, have fun, kids. Santa's coming. Nothing about Jesus, nothing about the birth of Christ, but all of them lined up behind that. And I thought that was interesting. I can only hope, well, maybe it's the spirit moving and it can change these people. But I was kind of thinking of a biblical verse, or a biblical part of Saul, where, remember, he goes into the valley and he begins prophesying because it's so holy. Even he and his corrupt nature had no choice but to admit the truth, and he started prophesying the truth, and while chasing to try and kill David, right? And I just kind of think that's kind of these guys. Like, yeah, it's the truth. They can't deny the truth. But here they were in a deceptive way, trying to, well, see, we're here to protect you, Christians. Meanwhile, the media and the regime media is attacking Trump for defending Christians who are being massacred in Nigeria at the same time. And that's just kind of my point on that side of it. I thought was pretty interesting to watch. But yeah, if you go back, you can go on X or you can go on YouTube and you can go see all the different WF leaders all kind of lined up giving the same messaging. And it's almost like the media, the media does all the same message, like the same editorial board.
Yeah, the talking points go out, right?
Yeah, and you could tell. It's like, okay, you guys need to all talk about this because we got to calm these people down, or else they're gonna take us to the gallows in a rebellion. So it's like,
Well,
the Bastille is breaking, folks.
I'm playing around with my keyboard here. If you're wondering what the hell I was up to. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, good. We got my spelling back. This is kind of crazy because you talk about the Christian message that the World Economic Forum is doing. But there was one of the things came across my feed today, and it basically, and I'll see if I can find it. If I can't get it, no big deal. The alarming statistic that 3 out of 4 young people in Brussels, the capital city of Belgium, are foreign born. So if you're talking about, a population replacement being a myth, certainly it isn't there. It's no fantasy. The numbers are in, but yeah, this was released by one of these think tanks or something, and it just came across my feed today. I got 3/4, but 3/4, 3/4, 1 out of 4, 3 out of 4 out of 4 foreign born in Brussels, the capital.
Yeah, I saw that story. It was.
Did you see that too?
Yeah, I did. It came up on my feed as well.
Okay.
It was. Yeah, it was.
Here it is.
Go ahead and show it.
It took me a bit to find it, but because I didn't plan on sharing it. It's just our conversation when you talk about their big message about Christianity. And as always, I'll take a look at it. Let's go bigger on it so people can see it more clearly. There we go. That's better. Brussels demographic replacement denial is no longer possible. 3 out of 4 children are of non-European origin. Can you imagine? Official figures show that nearly 3 out of 4 children in Brussels are now of non-European origin, a transformation with profound social consequences. Only a small fraction of minors in the city are of Belgian origin, while the vast majority come from outside Europe, reshaping the future population in real time. This did not happen by accident, but through the deliberate policy choices made by political elites who dismissed warnings as myths. Family reunifications become the primary engine of mass settlement, right? You got Muhammad over here, so we got to bring Ahmed over and Fatima and all the rest of the family. When a capital city reaches the point where most of its population, three quarters in this case, no longer share historic, cultural, or civic roots, integration becomes an illusion, correct? What is unfolding in Brussels is not diversity management, but demographic replacement driven by policy inertia, ideological blindness. I don't think they're blind. I think they know exactly what they're doing.
Hmm.
Refusing to acknowledge these numbers only deepens public mistrust, guarantees further social fracturing. And so, here's, I guess, in their language, in Flemish, I assume, you've got the statistics here. But
Yeah.
anyway, 3 out of 4 is the number, to say the least, alarming. And of course, we're seeing that being replicated everywhere. We're having
London.
trouble. Yeah, we're having trouble in Canada with temporary foreign workers. So our teenagers can't get a job. You go to one of these Tim Hortons, they call it Timmigrants for a reason. A&W, uh, Best Buy, Staples, all these block franchise entities are being kind of populated by temporary foreign workers in order to save a dollar. I won't go to any of them anymore. I'm out. I've kind of had my fill of it, pardon the pun,
Yeah.
Blake. And I don't know if you guys, what your attitude is or what you've been doing vis-a-vis these kind of enterprises. Um, but I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a related story just on that. I mean, this stuff is insane to me. I'll share a link for you. And but this is a judge. That's how weird our world is. How weird the Dems are, I guess, and liberals in general. This is a judge who ruled that toxic artificial food dyes cannot be banned from being in our food. So this lovely lady here, District of West Virginia, USA, she goes, you cannot put dyes or like Maha. You got Bobby Kennedy going, let's make it illegal to put these dyes, which are linked to cancers, all sorts of health troubles, right? Inflammation, this kind of thing. And so she's going against what the Secretary of Health has determined and says, no, 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 no. You can't say that there's not going to be food dyes, artificial food dye in food. That's unconstitutional. So she's put a block on it. And this kind of nonsense happens all the time. So once again, the activist judges, certainly impeachment's got to be called. But because the Republicans, the length and breadth of the Republicans, two wings, one bird, the uniparty, you've got a lot of compromised Republicans, and they're adding support to it. Elon Musk was saying, in our kind of republic, we can't just go in. We'd have to go in a la Genghis Khan and form an iron-fisted kind of dictatorship if you really wanted all corruption and insider trading and money laundering and all that to go away completely. It's next to impossible. You'd have to change, it would not work in a democratic republic. It just won't. It can't work because of the sin within that is evident within the human condition.
Well, especially
so anyway, yeah, just temporary foreign work. So this all speaks in a way to what you're talking about at Christmas, where they're giving lip service to Christ, but I don't buy it.
Mhm.
Don't many come to me in that they say, Lord, Lord, didn't I?
Yeah.
Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. I never knew you. I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, because they never knew him. They just made it up. There was just a story to kind of placate to the real believers, especially I think it's Rome 2.0, right? That's essentially Rome was being overtaken by Christians who were literally organically by the spirit of God were converting, and they couldn't kill enough Christians to keep them from Christianity from spreading through the people. And it's very similar. So essentially Rome decided, well, let's just take over the church, right? And essentially announce that they were now the head of the church. And that's just my opinion. Sorry, Catholics. I know you'll disagree with me, but that's essentially what happened. Um, and if you can't beat them, join them, and then manipulate them, then control them, right? That's essentially because they couldn't care less what religion was in there. It was all about power and control. They'll do whatever's the authority. Just like I picture that, that scene in that movie with Orlando Bloom where he's defending Jerusalem and from Saladin and Kingdom of Heaven. Great movie. Obviously there's flaws in it, but it was a good movie. But there's this scene in there where it's essentially Orlando's trying to hold the city from the Islamic barbarians at the gates, literally smashing at the gates. And the head of the church is saying to them, "Well, let's convert to Islam, repent later." He's like, what the hell? Get out of here, right? It's like, but that's what I was thinking when I'm hearing these guys. That's kind of, they don't care. They don't have a faith. Their faith is in their power and their money. And as long as they don't care if the whole situation in Europe switches Islamic, as long as they're still holding the reins of power, they'll just convert for the convenience of control. And so that's the ridiculous side of this. So yeah, you've got the barbarians, they're going to win that battle, and we'll just repent later. It's like, okay, yeah, but you won't even repent, you won't care because it doesn't matter. It's authoritarianism. It doesn't matter what flag flies as long as you're in charge of it. But as I said, I agree. I think these people are frauds of the worst kind, wolves in sheep's clothing in a lot of ways when they start professing Christ in their speeches, but have zero interest in it whatsoever. It's purely for political messaging to keep the control over the masses from rebelling, because that's essentially what Europe is undergoing right now. EU is not supported by Europeans, right? It is falling apart. And they know it, and they're desperate. That's why they're trying to change the messaging.
Well, yeah, like we said about Brussels, it's this population replacement. It's not a myth. It's not, drummed up out of thin air. I mean, it's a real thing. And I remember arguing with somebody a long time ago about Sharia law coming to Canada. Sharia law is inevitable in any location where you're going to have a dominant majority population of Muslims. Because that's their culture. They will demand it. They will want it, and they'll have the a number of people in place to ensure the vote. So it's just going to happen. Now, Canada's a country in real conflict. They talk about diversity as our strength, which is a huge lie that is. Yeah. But the other problem is that you're going to get enclaves, large Islamic enclaves, and going up against large East Indian conclaves, Indian, and mostly Khalistani variety, because we got so many Sikh people over that they're the dominant form of Indian immigrant in Canada. They aren't Hindus per se, more so the Sikh population, which is very large here. But the demographics changing, and we're seeing it. I just saw somebody do a post to Toronto, and he said, "I've slowed it down." So you won't, but as I walk through a mall here, and there's not a single white guy in the clip. He says, "So where are all the white people? They fled out of that. White flight is occurring, and so they're heading the hills." And I know as many of us, many people, I think, would possibly, hightail it to the United States to get out of seeking a place of refuge, because to me, the United States is the only country in the world that's at least even lip servicing something to the extreme. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, U.S. murder statistics were just released for the first time ever, they've gone down. And the reason they've gone down, it doesn't take a Rhodes Scholar to figure out that with all the, getting all these people out, these illegal people that came in, and getting them out of the country is going to have an impact. So one of the stats, I think I got it here, and it was just manifested across the border. Yeah, check this, Blake. Here's the writing on the wall, just published. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Spare me all that. By the way, liberals tuning in. Oh, stats can be manipulated. Blah blah blah. Go away. White House, law and order delivered. All we needed was a new president. Crime drops at record rate, down 23.2%. Motor vehicle theft, number one crime apparently in most places. 19.8% down. Murder, 18.3% down. Robbery, 10.2% down. Violent crime, 7.5 down. Aggravated assault. These statistics being quoted by the White House directly. So,
Yeah.
correlation isn't necessarily causation, but in this case, I would say certainly. And we're still, I mean, the outrage continues. Make no mistake, some woman got herself stabbed in a Barnes and Noble of all places, some nut job. And if you're wondering, who this guy might be, if you're thinking usual suspect, you'd be right. And another woman was murdered as well.
Well, and I think if you were to drill down into those statistics, what would be really interesting to see is the difference between obviously the progressive run cities versus the red state areas that have embraced MAGA, right? So you're going to see, Chicago, places like that, where they're probably still having a high rate of crime because the city officials are still entrenched with the democratic machine. And I don't even know what they are. They're the progressive Marxists, is what they really are. They're trying to derail the capitalist society of the United States. That's their whole intent. But it would be interesting to drill down just to see state by state, city by city, where, and I bet you it's very similar to the voting maps, right? If you looked at the voting maps by county and you see all the red maps versus the blue maps, I bet you all the blue maps have all the high crime statistics, for the most part.
Oh yeah, you go into the cities, right? And the cities are where
Yeah.
the population is. So there's any number of ways to interpret that. It's a hard one
Yeah.
for us to win when we do that one because they go,
Well, you can win when you can look at who's running the cities, right? That's the difference. Like if you have good law and order, like Rudy Giuliani was tasked to clean up New York, and he did.
Yeah,
And
he did. Yeah,
because it was so bad, it was out of control. I remember all the movies coming out in the late 70s and early 80s, The Warriors, we saw that, Fort Apache, The Bronx. I mean, this was coming out of the Carter years. It was absolutely gang infested, crime infested. The urban decay was everywhere. There was parts of New York that looked like bombed out old cities from World War II that were in such rough shape. And I remember all those movies, and then all of a sudden things started to change around, clean up the crime. What were the vigilante group there called the Angels,
like in New York?
Yeah, in New York.
The Guardian Angels.
Guardian Angels, exactly. And working with the city, people got fed up and they fought back to do that. And I think that's what it's going to come down to overall. And I think that's what MAGA is part of. We're done with the crime. We're done with the violence.
Oh
we're
my
done
God, Blake. Yeah. You know what? Here's what I did. Sue and I, we like to watch our Christmas. We watch Christmas Vacation. I hadn't seen it for a few years, Blake. I watched a Wonderful Life with James Stewart, Donna Reed.
Love that show. Yeah.
Oh my God, Blake. I'm bawling. I'm crying throughout the whole fucking thing. Everything. Oh, pray very hard. Pray very hard. And everything's about God. It's part and parcel of American life. That's what America was. When they say, make America great again, that's what it's talking about. God-centered, family and God at the center. Family and God at the center. That's America. That and everything else comes out of that.
Exactly.
Fighting for justice, truth, justice, the American way. And the American way is having God central, where they're all praying and God is just so everything. It's all part and parcel of the consciousness, the psyche, and it's so much referenced by everybody. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. this is the song you're putting in the
Yeah.
movie. This is the song you've chosen to put in there.
Well, and I think there's such a wonderful message that, as you're saying, all the outflowing that comes from that Christ-centered in the belief system that what America stood for
And
is that
Canada, we did too. Once
we did
upon
as
a time,
we
we were
did,
the
and the
same
Western
people.
world had a revival like that. Literally, I think at the post World War II, at the end of the blood and murder and death we all went through, that people changed. Things were like, let's have peace, love one another. Let's love one another like you love yourself. But the message in that specific movie is that the government wasn't there to save you. It was like, you the people need to care for one another and help one another, including when you look at the whole premise, like he's trying to help them before he has his meltdown and on the bridge, as we all know. But before that, he's trying to help the very people in his own community voluntarily through his bank, his savings and loans bank, and he's helping these people get homes,
Yeah.
not through government, by voluntarism, not handing your responsibilities off to government bureaucrats to be your conscience. That's where we fell apart. As soon as we said, well, the state needs to be looking after everything, and I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to throw my money to somebody else to do it all for me. That's where the world goes, oh, terrific. That's exactly what we want, because we can strip your faith, your belief, and that's where the chaos we're in now, right? Where people are all, nope,
Well,
I couldn't.
nature abhors a vacuum, and so
Yeah,
therefore, God, wish you were here. The lyrics of that, you changed for your lead role in the war. You got to fight for it, to be, walk on part in the war to have the lead role in a cage, right? This is what we traded: liberty.
yeah,
Liberty for captivity was the trade-off. Humanism is a dead end. There is no answer in humanity. That's
yeah,
the great lie. The great hope was held, oh, humanity, we can do because of our humanity. But no, it's God is central. And if you don't have that, all things begin and end. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the ending, not us.
yeah,
But on this religious front, in a world of trouble and the approach of Islam and greater representation of third world peoples who don't have Christianity at the center of their lives, there's some good news. A little light in darkness. UK churches report strong Christmas attendance growth amongst the youth, which is
yeah.
that it's happening with the young people. Let me make this a little bigger again. Hopefully, we can do that and allow for the delay. Thanks, folks. Church leaders across the UK saw robust Christmas attendance this year. Reverend Sander describing huge growth since the pandemic at his London church, drawing 400 to 500 people last Christmas, especially youth seeking more morality amid societal changes. A Tear Fund poll showed 45% UK adults planning to attend services, up from 40% in 24. Tommy Robinson, it's happening. Breaking: church leaders up and down the UK are reporting massive surges in attendance across all denominations, particularly among young people. The revival has officially begun. Now, I can't tell you if there's a revival happening there. I can tell you something, Blake, about my own testimony. Is in the late 70s, I came to Christ, but I came to Christ in the late 70s when where seemingly like a generation came to Christ during that period of time. So many people, including Bob Dylan. Bob
Yeah.
Dylan was like a year behind me. I had my thing, and then Dylan was right in there.
And it affect pop culture all across the
It
board.
was a big story. It was a big
Humble
story.
Pie with their,
Yeah,
Jesus,
the rise of charismatic churches all over the place, and of course, it was kind of like the golden age. Maybe the '80s were the golden age of wrestling. Well, it was the golden age of evangelicalism and independent Christianity until corruption lasciviousness, greed, and lust came in and
Hmm.
destroyed it, rotted it from the inside. Jimmy Swaggart's infamous falling at the motel, a repeated offender with the prostitutes down there on the strip. Jim and Tammy Faye's abomination of PTL Disneyland, the PTL world they created. And, and then there was Benny Hinn and who's the other guy? Oh, I can never remember his name. He's a crazy man. But Robert Schiller's
Oh, I thought you meant Kenneth Copeland or someone like that.
Copeland, that's the crazy guy. Copeland's the crazy
He's
man.
got a anger in his eye that when you see
Oh,
him,
he's insane. But
yeah.
anyway, so there were all these excesses that destroyed it. But for a moment, for a while, there was a great ingathering by the Holy Spirit. So many people
Yeah.
came to God. B.J. Thomas and
Well, have you seen
just
that movie
different people.
that was just done recently? I watched it. It was Kelsey Grammer in it. It's about the rise of the whole Jesus movement in
Okay.
the 70s. It's a great movie if you get a chance to see it. It just came out this fall.
Yeah.
It's brand new. If you haven't seen it, it's worth the watch.
Is
It's
it done
excellent.
by faith people or is it?
Yeah, well, Kelsey Grammer's he's a faith person as well. He
Oh, I
believes in
didn't know
Jesus.
that.
Yeah. He's kind of got he's kind of the handful of the Hollywood rejects because he'd been kicked out of
So
Hollywood pretty
Kelsey
much.
Grammer, I did not know that about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great movie. I'm just trying to remember the name of it. It was like on Netflix or something like that. I can't remember where I saw it, but it's all about the rise of the Jesus movement in the
Yeah,
early
and like I
70s.
wanted to say, like in the 60s, it was Stampede Wrestling and localized wrestling things, and then the WWE and Vince McMahon, his empire took over, and then
Yeah.
wrestling became mainstream. Well, that was kind of like at the same time, evangelical Christianity was undergoing the same kind of thing. It was center stage, and it got a lot of attention, and there was story crossover artists,
Yeah.
all that sort of thing. There was a lot of heat, but there was underneath all the artifice and the BS. There was, in my opinion, a genuine movement of God, and I
Well,
just
people were
never
starving,
people.
for spiritual need. There was this, obviously people were Vietnam War was playing a big part. The body bags coming home. The baby boomers were like, we don't want to go into another World War II where there's millions of dead, and I think there was seemed to be, and of course Kennedy being assassinated. I think that put a shock, and then the loss of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. being assassinated, Robert Kennedy Jr. being murdered. Things must have seemed like the world was ending. I wasn't born until '69, so I missed that, but I knew I was close enough to its history to know it.
Yeah,
So.
you'd be in the caught up in the after ripples of all of it.
I was a kid when the Jesus movement came out in the 70s. So,
Yeah.
but I loved all the music because I remember, that movie I was just describing. I said, I bet you there's going to be Spirit in the Sky is going to be in there, and of course,
Norman Greenbaum.
and of course it did. And then they played, the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, geez, just all right.
Right, all right, and Humble Pie. They have one as well.
30 Days in the Hole.
Yeah. So, but there was, it's like a who's who, and of course, there's the Tiny Dancer makes a mention to it, right?
Yeah.
Elton John. I mean, it's so much happened at that time. There was a comment there by Danny Allen. It's interesting to see that New York becomes with their new mayor. Speaking of cultural icons, I've been posting them up there that I didn't know that John Carpenter was a prophet, Escape from New York. Actually becomes for real. Where's Snake Plissken when you need him?
This is so very interesting. Rachel von Christ at the end of the 70s. It was around 77 or so for me, 76. I was out of high school by a year or two, I think. I had my only revelation in 1980 and leave it undefined because it was bigger than my mind then and now. It's because it's a matter of spirit, not mind. Spirit transcends mind, but that is for another broadcast, perhaps. So I play another record and read another book. Attaboy. Attaboy. Anyway, God is good and still working. And so I was just so edified by the Trump administration. What a stark contrast to the godless uh, list of cronies we have in Canada with our Kwanzaa. Because here's the deal, Blake. They may have given lip service to Christ this year, but when it comes time for the 10th prophet of Sikhism to have his day, the same idiots will be out there lauding that praise. And for me,
Yeah.
that praise is reserved for God alone and through the Lord Jesus Christ, God manifest in flesh, by the way, folks. Jesus Christ, fully God,
Amen.
fully man. All right. Let's so Trump is out there. He's posting a lot on the election. And some of it, I mean, you wonder why, but there was a real effort to keep the lid on it. I don't think they're going to be able to keep the lid. I think 2026 is going to be the year of reevaluating what happened in 2020. I believe it's the beginning of the end of the lie, and January 6th will be included. And I think that'll all be showing up for what it truly was. But let's take a look
Yeah.
at this one. Okay, again, let me go big screen for you. There we go. All right, and it's very succinct. It's to the point. That we know they cheated. They know they cheated. Trump knows they cheated. They've been cheating for decades. It's past time to do something about it. Here's Trump posting this. I got kicked off of Facebook. I didn't bother with Facebook. I left Facebook on my own. Twitter actually bounced me for reposting the president on stuff like this. The setup on the clip. This is a Republican elections volunteer watcher overseer, and so she's recounting what she witnessed under the Democrat counting process. Here we go.
I just thought it was strange that only Biden's name was selected, no down ballot. And I watched multiples. I don't know how many I watched, and not one of them was for Trump. I thought that was really strange, especially being military. You must know in your heart that this election was fraudulent. There's no question of it if you really are sensible. And
all right, so I mean, it couldn't be clear that one isolated report, but I've got a whole string of shit that just up top here, clips of ongoing stuff that Trump is drawing our attention to. It's the president. When the president speaks, it's up to you and I to listen because he's trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
And here, clearly, he's succeeding. So remarkable that the president is showing this clip. And is he doing it why do it for the sake of doing it? It's not simply for the sake of making a shout and making a noise and going, 2020 was stolen. I think we're looking for consequences here. Yeah. I still, despite all the inactivity and all what we're not seeing, I still hold out the belief that justice somehow, some way will find its way. And we're finally going to see some justice in this because in my mind, there's no two ways about it. 2020 was stolen. I think the receipts are in. We can show the people. Trump is doing a great job of putting clips like this out. Blake, your thoughts?
Well, and I think it's worldwide. And I think those of us that believe the WF, which is the public spokesman for these globalists who've been running this scam worldwide. And I think it starts in the US for exposure because the US has the means to expose it. A lot of the countries are under authoritarian regimes, literally, or soft authoritarians like Canada. And you can't get the information out. Like I watched the Remanded here in BC saying the same thing over and over and over. And they don't pick up, not even the opposition parties pick it up. And we know it's in Europe. We know it's in South America. We know it's being used as a tool to get the people they want in power. We knew it happened to Bolsonaro. Guaranteed, 100% Bolsonaro should still be in charge of Brazil. So I think all of this I agree. I think it's coming to a culmination. It starts in the U.S. The U.S. is flexing now hard, like what they've done on the EU. They're trying to tell the EU, you guys start getting into suppression of free speech, which ties to this as well. They want all of this to be out in the forefront and nobody to be told that they're not allowed to talk about certain things, or else the risk of going to jail or being completely deplatformed from life. That's what these guys want. They want no trials, no jury of your peers, no due process. They want to just strip you of being able to have any. Why would they want to do that? Because exactly points like this. Because if the truth gets out there that this was a worldwide effort to manipulate elections and place people into power, the whole thing falls. The whole thing falls. The world will rebel against them. They are out of power for good. And I think Trump, in some ways, people are saying, well, why did he go on to do all this on Christmas Day? Well, you know what? It got your attention, didn't it? That's why. He's a brilliant strategist when it comes to marketing. He knows when people are listening, right? It's like there's a point. You want to lay a point down, you do it on Christmas Day, and everyone's like, what the heck is he doing this on Christmas Day? Well, you know what? To MAGA, it's a Christmas present. Thanks for bringing this all out, because we're all excited of the change. But part of this, I think, there's strategy. Of course there's strategy. He's also involved with a political machine that has to be political. And you know what? 2026 is the midterms. If they had all rolled this out 6 months ago, people forget. We're in an era where literally what happened 3 days ago is out of sight, out of mind. You know, it just disappears.
And generally, yeah, the pattern has been whenever a big story comes out for our side, the Dems counteract, and you get some sort of other story that suddenly makes it into the news cycle.
Distract.
And then everybody starts looking at the latest story coming from another pocket.
So I think we're going to see a 2026 of not just October surprises on these guys. It's going to be the entire year. They're going to be on their heels, and it has to be done. And as I was saying off before we started the stream, you know, Patrick Ben-David, I think, made the best point to all of MAGA land out there, and especially the talking heads who have very powerful followings, is stop fighting over stupid crap that has nothing to do with making America great again. You guys are fighting over, you know, straining at gnats, hacking each other up. Start supporting the president, MAGA, and winning, because you won beforehand. But as soon as he wins, all of a sudden you all want to break it all up. You want to smash it all up and beat on each other in public. And
well, I think they need to be named, identified, and then called out, so you know who's got an agenda that's not MAGA, because those are the people bringing the distraction. If you do stupid shit and win stupid prize.
Yeah.
It's kind of my thinking on that.
Well, the way I look at it, they had a list, right? It's the FBI had a list that was provided by the top brass within the Democratic and the Uniparty machine that didn't want MAGA to win, and they've got apparently a list of about 50 top speakers that they wanted to go after, and apparently, there's your people who are MAGA, right? If they put you on a list to target, then you're a MAGA. You're MAGA because they're a threat to their establishment. So, you know, anyways, I just liked the message. It was like, cool it. You guys were all on the same team up until then. And then all of a sudden things aren't moving fast enough. You're expecting, you call them panicins, whatever. Yeah. Every little thing. It's like, oh my God, the whole thing's collapsing. It's like the sky's falling. But some of it, I think, is like, stop looking at your own ratings and believing your own fame. Your fame is only there because the people want change.
Yeah.
They don't want you to continue to drum up crap that's meaningless. It just because you want ratings, and because you're becoming irrelevant, because your irrelevancy should be things making you happy, because that's the point. You came into this to fight against regimes that were conquering everything that you believed in. And now you're fighting against each other because you're trying to stay relevant. I think some of you guys would love to see the Democrats come back into power. And I agree on that point, because you know why? It brings your ratings back up. But let's remember, these same people will take away that freedom to speak next time. They will, if you give them the inch to take power, they will lock it down.
So
2026, is a crucial year for the world, not just for Donald Trump and MAGA, but for the world, because it's the last standing free country, the shining light on the hill or shining city on the hill. It's it. And there's nothing left. If it falls, the world is going to be in a very dark place. And
Yeah.
it's,
And we know
it's,
what it'll look. We know what it looks like. It looks like Brussels.
yeah.
All right. Here's another one. This is dropped on Christmas Day by the president. You gotta love him. Holy smoke! I love this one. This was pretty darn interesting. In light of everything. Okay, there we go. I always like get a big for everybody. Okay, and then we go over wherever I've got this selected. Okay, boom. Epstein files just backfired on Democrats. Trump has dropped a nuke tonight. Trump says Democrat names are about to come out from the Epstein files. Enjoy what may be, this is a quote by Trump, your very last Merry Christmas, your last Merry Christmas. When it's revealed that they are Democrats all, there will be a lot of explaining to do. Trump did say that's Trump saying that. And then Eric Daughtry goes, fuck around, find out. Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleaze bags who love Jeffrey Epstein, gave him bundles of money, went to his island, attended his parties, and thought he was the greatest guy on earth, only to drop him like a dog when things got too hot. Falsely claimed they had nothing to do with him, didn't know him, said he was a disgusting person, and then blame, of course, President Donald J. Trump, who was actually the only one who did drop Epstein, and long before it became fashionable to do so. When their names get brought out in the ongoing radical left witch hunt, plus one lowlife Republican, Massey, and it is revealed that they are Democrats all, there will be lots of explaining to do, much like there was when it was made public that the Russia hoax was a fictitious story, a total scam, and had nothing to do with Trump. The failing New York Times, among many others, were forced to apologize for their bad and true and faulty election reporting, even to the point of losing many subscribers due to their highly inaccurate fake coverage. And on goes the president. But the point is, he's calling it out. And, by digging all this dirt up and bringing it up to the surface and into the light for the world to look at it, Trump's clear. And the beauty of what's happening, some of the redacted stuff, some wiseacre figured all you had to do was get it into a PDF file reader, and it'll be able to read through the redacted, so you can edit in there and just remove the redaction, and you can see the text underneath. Yeah. And so, and that, that redaction, but the one nice thing about that they are able to do it, Trump won't show up in the redacted bits either. Trump's going to come through this thing smelling like roses. You got nothing on him. If they had something on him, they would have gotten him long ago. They would have used it. It's too big a bullet to use and leave it in your gun and let's make up fake stories about Russian prostitutes pissing on him instead. Well, can't we use the real incriminating evidence?
Isn't that what Engelbert Humperdinck got caught doing?
Fuck, I don't know, man. I know. It's
like they literally took a story from like the 1970s, about Engelbert Humperdinck used to do that. So. Yeah.
I think you're totally wrong about that, Eddie. In fact, all indications you got your Democrat Party is polling at 18% approval. I don't have to tell you, Eddie, that an 18% approval isn't going to win an election for you. Plus, we're on to all the tricks. Here we go. Here's a trick. This was kind of interesting. Again, the president posting this one. Trump has everything, every single stolen vote. And here we got Trump posting this. This is kind of interesting. So this cat here is playing around with the pockets. This lady here goes, oh, what's this? Let me see what this is, right?
Under the seat.
Got it in her hand. Yeah, there she goes. Hey, thanks, Bobby. And so, shenanigans, what the hell's going on there with that, right? So, she there with her little mask, all safe.
Yeah.
And, there we go. You're paid for services rendered. Then you got this one. These election workers talked about the cheat openly. The only people who were prosecuted were the people who said they were cheating. Here we go. Let's pull it back a bit.
Yep. That's basically, you just watch the handoff. Are we watching a different video now?
Yeah.
Still the same one. It's just cycling. The one I saw today, I thought was good. It was a repeat from 2020, where it was the election worker in Pennsylvania, in a station there, where he's saying, and he's a registered Democrat, who live time was basically saying they're cheating, and posted up that video. And
Yeah, I like that. Obviously, that carries weight when a Democrat himself. But here they are saying it, right? Take the boxes, get me some results.
Yeah. The first video is still up.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's just cycling.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, Blake. I like what you were saying there. I've got another video. Let me share this one instead. I'm going, holy smokes. Let me share this one instead. Thanks for catching that for me. Okay. So, I mean, it goes on and on. So, this is them just basically talking about what they did. Now, can you see the thing where it goes watch
Yep.
again? All right.
Yep.
So you can hear them talking, basically saying, okay, what are we going to do with these ballots that we've got? Take out the boxes, do our thing, because there's 30,000 are sitting there. $1,000 to $2,000 do you copy?
I mean, it's crazy what happened there, where they were literally blocking the scrutineers, the observers, from being
Yes.
able to watch. I mean, that was the first sign. And literally, remember in Maricopa County, they locked them out, put screens over the windows, and and literally sent the police to remove them. And they're pounding at the window, saying, "We have a right to be in there," because they had to mask the steal. Like, and that's the thing; it was a steal. They faked it all the way. I mean, the video after video after video, and then there's the famous one where they're pulling out the suitcases from underneath the tables full of ballots, right? Fake ballots. Or you've got delivery truck guys coming on and testifying, literally having truckloads and boxes full of fake ballots brought from warehouses, from who knows where, not from ballot stations, but from warehouses, and brought into count. Like, what they said, there was like 300,000 votes. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think maybe it's Georgia. Something like 300,000 votes that went 100% to Biden. Right? It was just after they locked everybody out.
Well, those were the military votes. The military votes came in, and every single military vote went to Biden. Now, if you believe that, I got some swampland, in Moose Jaw.
Yeah, most of the military historically has voted to the right, historically.
Yeah, of course. It's not all going to go to Biden. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But there would still be the percentages. You would see the different. But yeah, it's crazy what's happening.
Yeah,
but
well, not 100%. 100% went there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is one. Let me see if I could bring this one up here, Blake. I got another one for us. This is on Dominion, one of your favorite topics. Okay, this is from an account called The Skiff. During 2020, votes on Dominion voting machines were disappearing and appearing in the dead of night in Clark and Fulton County, Georgia. Logs stored on USB drives required by law were changed from the end of one vote count day at close to the next day when the counting resumed the next day. When an audit was grounded, a useless visual examination of only the outside of the USB drives was allowed. So everything was controlled. You can't look in too deeply. No internal info on the USB drives were allowed to be accessed during the audit. This coincides with the recent information what also happened in Fulton County with their logs from election officials when election stations were open and closed as well, which 315,000 votes were not authenticated because the chain of custody was broken. Hundreds of thousands of duplicate votes were also counted, and a total of 364,000 ineligible voters were not cleaned off the voter rolls prior to the election. Why? Because it was a cover up. They knew exactly what they were doing, and that was to steal the 2020 election. And this lady explains about it more. And then Trump's in on it, right? Do your job or resign your position, Pam Bondi. United States Deputy Chief of Staff, the Policy and Homeland Security Advisor, Stephen Miller, Comer, Clapper, Brennan, Monaco, and Barack Hussein Obama all conspired to work together, sabotage, undermine, unravel, and overthrow the United States government and the democratic institutions and structures of this country. So the fix was in. It was across, it wasn't just the election itself, but all the muddying of the water and the denigration of Trump through false and phony charges against the guy, drummed up charges. They had to change statutes in New York in order to nail Trump because all his behavior at the time of any of these transactions he was doing was all above board and by the book.
Well, one thing I will say, and I don't care what anybody thinks about this, but there's no coincidence that COVID hit that same year. So
a lot of people have voiced that very thought. Blake. I mean, you're not talking out of place or out of order. A lot of people, I think we know in hindsight, it certainly allowed. It provided the justification for mail-in votes, and this is where all the problem came. So Trump was leading in all five swing states. They shut him down in 2020, and then lo and behold, everything switched for Biden's favor once people woke up. It was in the bag. Even Raffensperger in Pennsylvania was saying he's on tape being recorded. Says there's only 2% of the vote to come in. Trump's won this thing. Because in any real world scenario, even with 2% coming in with Trump with such a lead that he had, would have given him the victory. But everything went to Biden with a trickle towards Trump. Everything overwhelmingly went Biden.
Well, I think all of us can say the same thing. We hated losing 5 years of our life just about through all that but you know what? In the greater picture, it was the good thing because it gave MAGA and Trump, they could see the corruption now. It was all laid out in front of them. They thought they could close the gap and basically wipe us off the face of the planet. And now it's just the opposite. Now they're on the retreat and on the defensive. So I think it's good. I think 2026 is going to be that year. And we can maybe talk about that next week before New Year's as predictions into the new year.
This is a kind of ridiculous statistical analysis, and the analysis isn't ridiculous, but it's clearly what happened. Shiloh Marks writes, California reported 5.1 million new valid voter registrations in 2020. Congrats, California. You're doing good. Biden won California. Oh, well, what a coincidence. 5.1 million votes. So 5.1 million new votes valid came in and 5.1 million won. So, I mean, this is just the deal. Now, how is California doing? Just in, President Trump posts that California Democrats have fraudulently stolen $76.5 billion from the taxpayers. This is a jaw-dropping amount of theft. As Elon Musk said, if you cut off the federal payments to California, they'd instantly go bankrupt. Trump, insane. New report alleges $76.5 billion or more fraudulent spending in California. And we'll play the clip for you so you can hear what they say.
His home state, saying under Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership, it has become the, quote, fraud capital of America.
And we have team coverage. Our national correspondent, Alana Austin, is on Capitol Hill with more on the investigations into Tim Walz. But we start with correspondent Heather Myers, who has more on what is going on in California. A rainy day out there on the West Coast. Heather, what can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon to you, Katrina and Andrew. This latest report was issued by the state auditor, and that's a nonpartisan position. That state auditor now puts 8 state agencies on the high-risk list of agencies to watch out for things like fraud and mismanagement as well as waste. Here's a look at that 92-page report. Newly added to the high-risk list is California's food stamp program. If the state doesn't get the improper payments under control, it could cost an extra $2.5 billion. Also on there is the Department of Finance, which was tasked with giving out COVID relief funds. Critics say $32 billion of that was taken by fraudsters. Then there are infrastructure issues like California's deteriorating dams and also the high-speed train that's already cost taxpayers $18 billion without a single section of track complete. Other reports cite $24 billion spent on the homeless issue that critics claim the state lost track of. More recently, there's a report that says California cell phone users paid a surcharge for years to upgrade the state's 911 system. Here's Congressman Kevin Kiley talking about what happened to that plan.
That after spending $650 million on that system, the state is totally scrapping it and starting over, completely wasted the money because the technology doesn't work. Mind you, we are very close to Silicon Valley in Sacramento, and yet the government can't figure out how to make.
Okay, and on it goes, Blake. So, I mean, fraud, corruption. But 78 billion is the number being touted in total, and it's in the usual suspects, like the food stamp thing. There was a daycare in some Somalian daycare, and to the tune of millions of dollars for these kids. And apparently, some guy went up there and said, "Hey, where are all the kids?" And the woman's closing the door. "No, Chili, I no talk to you." You know, like, don't be looking here.
Empty buildings.
It's just unbelievable. So
well, there's a word for it. It's called a kleptocracy. When you have a government that supports widespread theft and is part of the theft ring, that's a kleptocracy.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable what we're witnessing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I see by the clock on the wall is 1 hour, or it's 1 o'clock after 1 o'clock here. Blake, I want to thank you as always for being here. Loyal audience, thanks for watching, tuning in. But the Democrats are in big trouble. And their approval rating, as more and more of these stories come to light, their approval rating is going to go down even further. I predict it's going to go lower than 18%. And when we learn finally about the truth of the 2020 election and how it was stolen, and it will become common knowledge that it was stolen, it will become just the plain truth, you know?
Yep.
And there'll be no gainsaying or denying it. So 2026 is looking to be really quite amazing. I think the Democrats are going to be a hurting bunch when it's all said and done, Blake.
Well, and it's a good year. It's the midterm years. They need to be hit with everything in the kitchen sink.
Well, it looks like it's heading their way.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being here, and we will be back on Tuesday. And I guess we're getting close to New Year.
That will be our New Year pre-New Year's Day show. So
okay, well, maybe we'll do a year in review and look at some of the top stories of the year, and maybe look forward to seeing what we might see in 2026.
Yeah, I'll make a prediction right now.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, make your prediction.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
Okay, there it is.